7:01, so it's not too bad. I'm going to call the meeting to order, and we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. So the first thing we have is approval of agenda.
I'll make that motion.
All right.
I'll second it.
I mean, we don't really, if it's just in contracts, do we really even need to add in the
No.
principal contract?
I think we're fine.
Anybody else have anything that they seem like want to add around? No? Good. All right. All those in favor, say aye. Raise your hand. Seems good.
I'm going to
Agenda.
abstain since I just
Sounds
walked
good.
in.
All right. The next thing would be public input and announcements. Does anybody want to do anything? Nope. Okay.
Anybody online?
Nope.
Okay.
All right. So then the next is approval of minutes from 5/1/24. Somebody want to make that motion?
I'll make that motion.
You second?
Second.
Any comments, edits?
One minor notable. Section 5 is not indented like the rest.
I like the way you think.
That margin.
We can fix that.
All right. With the margin correction, is everyone else good? All right. All those in favor? Good. Is everybody? Lovely. We don't have the student rep here today. With that. So then the next thing on the agenda is retreat planning.
So I think Nick had asked for this last meeting so that we could start nailing down summer times before we get too close to summer, just knowing that calendars fill up and schedules get kind of busy.
So, do we have, there's, different things that we can do during the retreat? Like, do we want to focus on, we have a lot of new board members. Do we want to re-look at board goals? And be that as our, main thing to do? Or Nick, did you have a specific other thing that you wanted to address? Because I think it is a good idea for us to spend some time as a
Oh, yeah.
longer group.
I think the bylaws, we need to take some time to look at those.
Yeah.
That came up in Community Engagement Committee again.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's why I mentioned it.
Yep.
Not my idea.
So what we did before was we were doing it on a Saturday morning, and we would schedule just a couple of hours.
Usually like 3.
Yeah, 3 hours. And we would work on something for long form. Would that work for folks again? Is Saturdays, in general, before we try to find a specific day, is that a good time that can work for people? Okay, so that's good. So then the challenge is, then you have to actually go to the specific dates of what actually works. Would we want to do we want to try to do 2, or do we want to just try to do 1? Because you could do 1 where it was look at all, go over bylaws and see if we need to do any adjustments, and then 1 that was a review of board goals, or, because I think it's hard to do both of those effectively in that amount of time. But that's just my opinion. Other people can.
I think we should do 2. I just think it's easier than trying to stretch it out over, say, 4 hours.
Yeah.
I mean, you can do 2 and 2, that kind of thing.
Yep.
I just think 2 would work better.
Okay.
Well, I've only been through the 1 year so far, and last time we did them 2 spaced apart,
Yeah.
and we effectively adjourned early.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We were 2.5 hours each.
Yeah.
Right.
And just said, okay, we're done.
Right. And I think in general, those and the one before that were really the heavy lift of really like looking at stuff. The bylaws, I'm not so sure about because I don't know if we really, how much we need to change. But like the goals, I think a lot of that we worked on last time. And then this time is more of like, okay, what are we getting rid of? Like, I think there's less getting rid of everything and rebuilding. So we might be able to.
We were going all the way back to still looking at mission, vision, values.
Right.
We were still reviewing that
Yeah.
to get oriented again to it.
And
So I think you're right that looking at the goals is going to be a little quicker conversation,
Yeah.
so that we'll do, I think, an hour of reviewing how things have gone this year. I don't know, might even be too much. But an hour of, okay, so what are we going to do differently? I think that's definitely accomplishable in
Right.
2 hours.
And then once we start editing, then it takes a long time sometimes.
And I even think, and I'm jumping a little ahead, agenda building on the 29th, we would have on our schedule to look back and check in on our goals on the 29th. And if we don't do that on the 29th, we're going to have a kind of short meeting on the 29th.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? So there might be a little bit of lead in to that retreat day anyway, if that's a lot of the work you want to do. I wonder if we maybe couldn't use the 29th well, so that the first retreat day, you actually could do maybe like an hour and a half on goals and then maybe a half hour on bylaws.
Yeah.
Then pick up the bylaws again at the next retreat day. If we reviewed the bylaws together and maybe thought about some changes, and then we went off and did some changes and then came back,
Yeah.
I wonder if that would be a good pattern to approach both of those.
Yeah, because if it feels like, because we're probably not going to do like a makeup for pre-K or anything on that day, like, because if there's nothing, if we don't have any other thing
Yeah.
like that's scheduled.
And even if we do,
use that
even if
time,
we do pre-K on the
there's still not much
29th,
other.
we're going to have a lot of time to do other things. Yeah.
That's fine with me. The next question is it, because we can do those, what is those, the date survey things
Yeah,
that
we can do one of those.
Is it easier to just get an email that just says like, here's days, check the days that you're available? And then we say, as long as we have quorum, we're basically good? Because sometimes it doesn't work out that we can have the
That's
vast
better
majority.
than each of us going.
I
Figure it out.
think that's the way we did it last time, right? Because
Yeah.
I know I missed one, and somebody else missed one last time, but by consensus, as long as you get majority.
Yeah, we should be good. All right, let's do that. Then we don't have to spend time right now trying to figure out
Right.
what weekend will actually work.
Yeah.
We're missing a handful of people.
Very true.
So we, of course, would pick a day that those folks
Oh,
would
yeah,
not
for sure.
make it.
Okay, great. So the plan will be,
And I
that you
I
can
can
do that?
coordinate doing
Thank you.
Saturdays. But it sounds like we're going to focus on Saturday mornings, and we'll find the Saturday morning
Yeah.
that works the best?
Yeah.
Okay. 2 of them,
Yeah.
okay.
okay. Does anybody else have any other thoughts about that they would like to talk about? Nope, great, all right. The next thing is food service contract.
Okay. So this is a renewal contract with our food service company, Lexington Independence. That's who's been serving us, gosh, now for maybe 4 or 5 years. It's been a little while. Their name's changed a little bit. The company we were initially working with got bought out by a larger company. We're going to go out to bid next year because it'll be time to go out to bid next year. This is just our renewal for under our current contract when we went out to bid the last time. So that's a little bit confusing. But built into some of these contracts are planned increases. And, with the way the economy's been going in food, I think we've all kind of felt that, that's when we go to the grocery store, prices are definitely different. This contract follows the rate approved by the state for allowable increase. So that's why this is not going out to bid. This falls under all of those wonderful state and board bid laws and policies. So the recommendation is to approve this increase for next year's contract. But I do think having that context of we are going out to bid fully next year, we'll start that process probably in the fall to obtain a new contract for FY '26.
And most likely,
Yeah.
the number will be much higher than what it is right now, because they're trapped
You
in
know,
this. 'Cause
the,
They've already asked for like 2 increases or something.
and we're starting to get into discussion, sorry.
Oh, sorry,
Recommendation
yeah, my
is to
bad.
approve the contract with the allowable increase per state guidelines.
Do you have a motion for that?
Promotion.
No? Second?
Sure.
All right, now discussion.
So yes, when we go out to bid, all bets are off.
Yeah.
So that's, that could be an interesting thing to see that process next year.
And I can't remember, there's maybe like, only like 2 or 3 companies that actually service this area in general?
There are not a lot of companies in this area that we can even contract with. So when we go out to bid, we're probably going to be getting bids from the same 3 or 4 companies that we generally always get bids from for these types of contracts. Yep.
So would there ever be a consideration to go back to a school like Wallingford? I mean, is
You know,
that put in as part of the bidding?
That can absolutely be a consideration. What we have found is that's more expensive. We can absolutely explore it again. I think that would be a great thing to do. Traditionally, that's been more expensive. You know, you have a company that is purchasing for thousands of districts. So they get a lot of wonderful price agreements with vendors themselves that they pass on to us. But we can definitely look into that.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Community conversation.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
fair, just, and
absolutely.
you said that will start in August, the process.
Sometime in the fall.
Oh.
Probably not August, but sometime in the fall.
Nick, yeah?
Yep.
2 questions.
Yep, Stephen?
One kind of leads into the next. This bid is only Mill River, Clarendon, Wallingford.
Correct,
does-
because Tinmouth and Shrewsbury do run their programs still locally in-house.
So the next bid, will that
Yep.
be encompassing of all?
That's a really great question. In the past, we have not done that because folks have been happy with their programs at Shrewsbury and Tinmouth. That does come at a cost, though. If folks wanted to look at that, we could definitely look at that.
Just a question.
Yep. I mean, we don't have to. There's nothing to say that we can't. So that would definitely be something to talk about. That's a process that Stan will be asking for folks to be involved in that process. So if there are some board members who are very interested in that conversation, absolutely participate in that process. Stephen?
Yeah, how does, maybe quickly or briefly, is universal meals, universal school meals,
Yep.
is that how does that fit into this process? Is that, something that's actually moving forward, or?
Yeah, universal school meals had been funded the last several years out of COVID-related ESSER funds that the state has gotten. This coming fiscal year, those are going to be funded out of the Ed Fund, which is one of the things that we had a pretty robust conversation about in the fall. That was an addition to the Ed Fund that increases property taxes and makes it a little more challenging to pass a budget, and that's something that we had nothing to do with. So that is in the state budget for next year to be provided. So universal school meals will still be happening. Was there more about the implications of that you were wondering, Stephen, or just if it was happening?
Sorry, I'm just trying to, does that affect this food service management contract at all? I mean, with like the price per meals, or some of this covered through that, or whether, are they connected at all, or am I just missing?
No, there will not be any real benefits or adverse effects, whether there were universal school meals or not. Something that I do think the food service programs sometimes do better when universal meals are provided because you have more students that sometimes access that maybe otherwise wouldn't qualify. So sometimes that's a benefit for the company we're working with, because just if you say in a typical year, I'm going to make a number up, typical year you have 50 kids in the cafeteria consistently getting meals. You might see 60 when universal free school meals are offered. So that doesn't really change things too much for us.
But what because the original contract
Yeah.
is like, that was when Universal didn't really necessarily exist, and there wasn't a number that was tied to it. So now they know every school district is gonna get this much for a meal, right?
Yes.
So it's like now, when they come back to do a contract, they may say, well, we know what you're getting for this meal, and it might change the number that they bring to us
Yeah,
because of that, but.
I really think what drives the pricing more
Yeah.
is just the market cost. So the reimbursable amount from the federal government for a meal is not going to be as important to our food service folks as what's just the cost of, a block of cheese. So I think what we're seeing, this increase is not being driven by, oh, there's more federal funding, great, we can ask for more. It's really just being driven by market costs. And they have been sharing that they've been struggling, and gosh, they really wish they could increase by more. But this is the allowable increase defined by the state.
Galen.
Two things.
Yep.
Which doesn't have anything to do with cost, but if you're going to include folks in looking at the next bid, students, please,
Yeah,
should be a part of that.
absolutely.
Just because they have to eat them. And I think they can give you a better, I think their input will be valuable. The second thing is cafeteria. Hasn't changed in about 40 years. It might not be a bad idea to have students and some staff folks go and visit some other cafeterias
Yeah, in the area.
and look at, number one, the food, but also the setup of the cafeteria itself. Because those tables are terrible. And especially if you're an adult, they're just not comfortable.
Yeah, no,
And
fair.
I think you could, and I understand, it may cost money, it may not, I don't know.
Sure.
But I think if you're gonna look at the bid down the road in a year, that to involve the students and let them go, take a field trip to Middlebury, take a field trip to Fairhaven, take a field trip to Otter Valley, I don't know, and taste the food and see how it's run, and look at the cafeteria and see how it's set up. I think it would be very helpful.
Yeah. And I think in the past, when we have changed vendors, we have pulled
Yes.
partners in to do that
Yeah.
work. It's not Stan just going, well, these folks have the best burgers, so we're going with them.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that all absolutely makes sense.
So I have a question, because it sounds like you're talking kind of from a Mill River focus, right? You're not thinking of taking kindergartners on a field trip to Middlebury, right? But my question is, do they serve the same meals at all of the schools?
So, no, not necessarily, but somewhat similar. So each kitchen is going to be doing things a little bit differently. There are some things that they do in the high school that are actually, I think, a little more interesting and innovative when it comes to thinking about how do we try to get high school kids to eat kale, for example, which is ridiculously healthy, but who goes and reaches for kale? Well, you walk through this cafeteria and you see kids eating kale. But that's not necessarily something that they're going to be trying to get kindergartners to eat kale. I think that's a slightly different challenge. So I think they approach it slightly different ways. So the meal plans are going to be a little different. They're all invested in how can we try and bring local foods and how can we try and bring healthy foods, but they've got different audiences.
Right.
So things that might work here might not work at the elementary.
And Carol, you're right with your observation. I was thinking more Mill River than the district. Because it is, as Brian says, it's
And you've got somebody in that kitchen looking at numbers and looking at menus and looking at which menus are working and which menus aren't. So they're making some of those decisions. Their purchases, as far as I understand, their purchases are specific to the needs of their cafeteria. So there's going to be some difference in those menus.
Anybody else have any other thoughts, anything?
Yeah, great questions.
Okay. All those in favor of approving this updated contract? Pretty good? Good. Stephen's good. Well, good.
Awesome.
Lovely. Okay, Tinmouth indoor air quality update.
This might look familiar. This is because maybe 2 meetings ago, we were talking about this, and we've had a little development in this project. We had gotten initial clearance from the state. So construction projects with grant funds are really interesting, and we get a couple more added layers of things we have to sort through to try and get approval. We had gotten initial approval for the project from Efficiency Vermont. We had gotten official approval, first round, from the Agency of Education. Then Historic Preservation got involved, and we got some feedback from Historic Preservation after we started submitting our final plans, where we had to go back and revisit those plans. So there were some minor adjustments that Historic Preservation said we needed to make in order to get their clearance to take back to the Agency of Education to get the second step of clearance from the Agency of Education. So we went through that wonderful dance of paperwork and went back to our vendors, and our vendors updated their costs based on that. Really, what's going to be different, heat pumps are going to be located in places you can't see them. And that's the historic preservation piece of, if you drive past the building, seeing a heat pump isn't going to fulfill those requirements. But if you drive past the building and it's hidden, tucked around the corner, or it's on the new part of the building, that's okay. So these costs really reflect running things slightly longer distances to be able to meet the requirements from historic preservation. All grant funding, we are still well under the amount available to us. So I think we're doing the project, I think, in a really cost-effective way, even though it's not our local funding. But we wanted to bring this back to the board just to get that approval, because it is a change in cost of what you already had approved. So no local tax implications at all. The grant still covers everything, but these are updates based on making those shifts to get our historic preservation paperwork in order. So we would recommend that the board approve the additional expenditure from the grant fund.
Anybody want to make that motion?
I'll make that
All
motion.
right, Nick, second?
I'll second it.
Yeah. All right, any more discussion?
Any questions on that, or?
It done. Great, all right, all those in favor?
Oh, Stephen's back. Did you hear that, Stephen, or do you want to abstain?
Might not.
I did hear that, yes.
Okay.
I missed the vote, though, if you voted.
We're voting right now, so if you'd like to.
Okay,
Good, all right, that's everybody.
in favor, sounds good.
Okay.
Fantastic.
Okay, the next thing is scholarship account.
So you have attached in your materials packet information on the Carol Welsh Memorial Nursing Scholarship. This is a scholarship that's been given at the high school in the past. We have a donor who wants to continue funding this scholarship. In the past, my understanding is that the donor has given us funds annually. And when we're given funds annually, it's really easy to disperse those funds, and we don't have to become the fiscal manager of those funds. The donor has approached us and asked, can I give you a lump sum to be used over the next 10 or so years? That complicates things, and that would be why I'm bringing this to you. the request of the board would be to approve creating an account for the Carol Welsh Memorial Nursing Scholarship. If we create that account, we can receive the funds, we can deposit it, and then annually, we can disperse those funds from that account.
Does anyone want to make that motion? And then we can talk about it. Carol, second?
I'll second.
All right, go ahead.
Any questions on that?
So the first question, so if they give us a lump sum, does it just sit in a bank account?
Yes.
That's not ideal for, keeping up with inflation or anything, but I guess it's the,
Well, can we get a high interest?
On the amount of funds that we're gonna get, I don't think it's,
yeah.
It'll
and
pay for the,
I don't
Like
know that we have a
500.
ton of options
Okay.
either, really.
That's fine.
Any other questions?
Anything else? No? Scholarships are great. All right, all those in favor? Everybody.
Great, thank you.
Okay, next thing is personnel. Glenn's time to shine.
You pointing at me? We do have some contracts. We didn't have a personnel committee meeting, but as typical this time of the year,
Yep.
things come up. So, first is, I will make a motion to offer a contract to Delaney Rowan, third, fourth grade classroom teacher, 1.0 full-time equivalency at Timna.
I'll make that motion.
Already made it.
Well, I'll second that.
There you go. Discussion? All those in favor? Thank you very much. Next is a contract for Wade Davis, 1.0 full-time equivalency, fifth and sixth grade classroom teacher. Actually, he's K through 6. And this is at Tinmouth as well, right, Brian? Okay. So I would make that a motion.
I'll second that.
Discussion. All those in favor? There we go. I think I have one more,
Yep.
but I don't know
Summer?
where it is. I lost it. Was it for summer?
Summer, yeah, and Summer's here,
I
if
see that.
we did want to hear from her. And I wonder if Carol might want to talk a little bit during discussion about the process.
okay.
So Summer Stutes for Clarendon Principal Contract 2-year.
So I'll make a motion, just so that we can have discussion, to offer a 2-year contract to Summer Stouts? Summer, is that right? Stutes, okay, thank you very much. As principal at Clarendon Elementary.
I'll second.
Discussion.
So we had, hi, Summer. Hi. I was pleased to be able to be part of the committee that interviewed Summer, and we were very impressed by her interview. She comes with a ton of experience, and we look forward to having her at Clarendon. Summer, did you want to say anything to the board?
Say hi.
Say hi.
I just wanted to say hi and thank you for the opportunity, and I'm really looking forward to working at Clarendon.
Great.
Any other discussion?
I'll throw in, Carol served on a committee that had 2 caregivers, 2 teachers, 1 staff member, and then Carol was the board member.
Yes, it was a
On that committee.
robust
So
committee.
that committee made the decision to offer the contract, and that's been the process we used recently to hire at Tinmouth. That's how we hired at Wallingford and Clarendon in the past as well, and Shrewsbury. So I think that that process has worked fairly well for us. We have really great folks making really good selections, so.
Any other discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? I'm gonna abstain.
Okay. Congratulations, Summer,
Yes,
you're in.
congratulations, Summer. Well,
Thank you.
welcome aboard.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Okay. You have a meeting?
Yes, we do.
It would
Thanks
be.
for asking. May 29th at 6 o'clock.
Oh, I forgot we already shifted that, because I was gonna say it would be graduation night, but we already talked about that.
I believe we did.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, we
No,
did.
I just forgot.
It's like we actually prepared and everything.
Yep.
Planned ahead.
So, next Personnel Committee meeting is May 29th at 6. That's
Okay.
all I have.
Oh, thank you. The next thing is policy. Nick? Maybe?
Let me just see here.
No new policy meeting, right, Nick?
Didn't
No.
have, they
We
didn't
did not
one
have
the other
a
day.
policy. It got canceled for this week. And I would like to make a motion to put forth, an adoption for policy F32, which is transgender and non-conforming students.
I'll make that motion.
Oh, I made a motion. I need a
Oh, you were
second.
I did the thing that Len did to you. I'll second it.
Beautiful. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Yeah, unanimously approved. And I don't see in the packet.
Yeah, and I think the B10
Yeah,
was on there because it was gonna get discussed at the meeting. So if it got discussed at the meeting,
perfect.
Because that's the
it didn't,
tobacco one.
so we can skip it.
And if
That
we,
is the tobacco one,
and if we
yeah.
stick with the recurring theme, our next meeting should be the second Tuesday in June, which I think is like the 11th.
It's on the Tuesday?
Yeah.
Second Tuesday, yep.
Yep, 11th. What time?
5:30? Is that right?
That's what it normally is.
Okay.
Buildings and grounds, we haven't had one since the last one. I just sent an email to all of the B&G committee members and Tim, because the one we're supposed to have is scheduled for Memorial Day. So I sent Tim a note saying, hey, should we have a discussion this month? Do you want to sneak in another one, or do we want to wait until June? So, TBD.
Okay, thank you very much, Nick. Community engagement.
Community engagement, we met tonight. We looked at the reorganization, and actually that led to a discussion of our charge and whether we want to kind of look at that. And we decided that we would wait for the retreat. So when we review the bylaws, that we might want to just wordsmith that a little bit to clarify what the role is. We had a great conversation. We really want to bring back the community conversations. We want to make them more location specific. For instance, we were just talking about the food service, and, you know, it was very kind of Mill River centric. And we want to have Clarendon and Wallingford have an opportunity to have input into that. So we are got work to do, but we're going to try and set a schedule. We're going to have a conversation series. They're going to be location and topic specific. And we're going to try and organize them around the committees. So building and grounds, so we'll have discussion of facilities in each of the buildings. Personnel, we won't talk about specific personnel, but we'll talk about what are the staffing priorities at each of the buildings. What do they want to see more of, less of? Policy, and talk about how policy impacts, the costs of things, and obviously finance. We want to have a lot of talk. We want to be able to communicate what things cost to community members. We talked about possibly scheduling them around 4 o'clock-ish because of the after-school programs. There would be childcare available for people. I don't know how complicated that is. This is all just the brainstorm. And the thing we're really hoping is that we can get members from each of those committees that are from those towns to attend those conversations so that we can really start to have a relationship with each of the town schools as instead of or in addition to kind of the Mill River community as a whole. So that's what we did.
Great.
And there may be a ask down the road of board member participation in some of those.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
if that doesn't sound like something folks can participate in or help pitch in with, community engagement needs to know that.
Yeah. Thank you.
The next thing is negotiate.
And did we say July 17th, 6 PM?
Oh, yeah.
Yes,
Sorry.
right?
July 17th, 6 PM is our next meeting.
The next thing is negotiations, and negotiations are still ongoing.
We are working on setting up a next meeting.
The next thing is finance, pay orders.
I have those somewhere here. Okay. So I have payroll warrant dated 5/15/24, FY '24, regular payroll in the amount of $6,855.28. Another regular payroll in the amount of $617,370.83, totaling $624,226.11. I would ask for a motion to approve that as read.
I'll make them. Oh, Nick's got the motion. Second?
I'll second.
Nice. Vote. All those in favor? Good, good, good.
I've got accounts payable warrant dated 5/15/2024, general fund FY '24 in the amount of $61,251.06, officials in the amount of $1,309.50, another general fund FY '24 in the amount of $65,427.53, after school program in the amount of $2,680.70, lunch program the amount of $2,399.04, totaling $133,060. Let me do that again. $133,067.83. Student activities Mill River, $4,102.14. Student activities from Shrewsbury, $565.97. Student activities Tinmouth, $1,695. Student activities Wallingford, $1,498.98, totaling $7,862.09. I would ask for a motion to approve those as read.
I'll make that motion.
Nick? Seconds. All those in favor? Everybody's good? Lovely. The next thing is ad hoc committee. We're getting close to the end of our committee's timeline. Oh, actually, finance, we have a meeting next
Thursday.
Next week.
Yes, we do.
Next Thursday at 5?
Is it 5:30? Let me check. 5. No, it is 5.
Yeah, it's on the even. Lovely. And that, so the ad hoc committee, we're almost done. We're gonna schedule a meeting for right after that finance meeting. And so then next month, we should have a report that we'll make to the full board.
I got 5 o'clock.
Yeah, 5 for the finance.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you, sorry.
What date was that?
For that's not tomorrow, but the
5/23.
5/23.
Oh, that's right, yeah, okay.
So that's all for that. Transact other legal business, we have to give me the right to sign
Yes, we do.
things.
So motion for Josh to sign on behalf of the board. Motion for Josh to sign payroll warrant and accounts payable on behalf of the board.
You want to make that motion?
I'll
Carol,
make that
second? Okay. All those in favor? Great. good over there. And then
You know,
we have
and
another one. Do
I
you wanna-
have one other one that we have a grant that we traditionally get from VHI, Healthy SU grant, and it needs a board chair signature. There is a deadline on this, so we'd like to get this sooner rather than later. So I would ask the board to authorize Josh to sign on behalf of the board to enter into contract for the Healthy SU grant.
Second?
One second.
Kim's got this. All those in favor?
I
Awesome.
Good. That's everybody. Does any other legal business? No? Okay, so then agenda building.
So likely we'll have that pre-K presentation. And then we did have on our annual schedule progress on goals or board education. I do think the progress on goals would be timely and would make sense and would set us up for, I see some head nods, is that?
Yeah, I think what we discussed before makes sense.
Okay, so I think we did that maybe in February. We'd just pull the goals back up and we'd talk through them a little bit and see where we are and if there are any things we want to try and do before we get to retreat with them. That's all I have for the early June, but what will be May 29 meeting on our schedule. We might have a hire or two. We might have a bid or two, just as we think about closing the year out. But I don't anticipate anything else.
Great. So let's do that. Do we need an executive session?
None that I'm aware of.
I would like to ask for an executive session
Okay.
in reference, I'll make a motion, because I guess that's what we have to do, to enter into executive session for contracts.
And then so I'll make that, so you made that motion. Does somebody want to second it?
Well, contracts, first we have to do the specific finding that premature public knowledge would place the board
Correct.
at a substantial disadvantage.
Right.
That's the first one that we're going to make.
That's the first one we need to make.
Okay. So make that
Premature
motion.
general, I'll make a motion that we enter into executive session for contracts that premature general public knowledge would clearly place the board at a substantial disadvantage.
Do we have a second on that?
Second.
All right. All those in favor?
And Stephen, I'll send you a link.
Okay, then now do we have to make a motion to go into executive session?
Yes, correct.
Okay, do you want to do that?
Sure, I can make that motion that we go into executive session.
All right. Second?
Awesome.
All right, that's got
That'll
it.
be-
All those in favor?
Oh, can I, discussion, just for the public, do you anticipate action?
Oh, that's a good point.
No,
Okay.
I do not.
Just so folks know that nothing's gonna happen after. You can absolutely stick around if you
Nothing
want to.
exciting is going to happen
Yeah.
after.
Lovely.
Because
Sorry.
this meeting's been.
That was discussion.
No,
so
no,
you
no,
know
No,
that's
that's
just-
good. All right, so now all those in favor? That's everybody.
Okay.